I'm gonna go back to the mattress for a second. I can remember when this mattress was first taken out of the house, and everybody was so sure that it was Ethan. I was so sure. Yeah. I was totally wrong about this. I was so sure. But this does not look like Ethan. But if it is Maddie, and I know people like to talk about where's all the red stuff. The very upsetting and unfortunate thing is these kids passed very, very quickly. And if they pass quickly, that's going to affect like how much blood that they pump and how fast. Yeah. So that plays a big role in it too. I know people go over to make sure to follow Amy Santoro. She's a blood analyst expert and she talks a lot about it. And I think she's getting more up to speed with the case itself. And so she has a little bit more context for stuff, but go follow her when it comes to, I was watching something on YouTube today to learn about spatter, but she's a great resource on here. So I think it's odd. Now the reason why we believe
maybe Amanda,
that's Maddie's is, I don't know if you can see this. I can't zoom in. If you see where that red circle is? Now this is, I'm told, Xana's mattress. And I'm told that they believe that because it says number 5. That's what the little marking is up here. It says number 5, which was a number that corresponded with Xana's bedroom in terms of like what were the room number 1, room number 2. So yeah. This apparently is what
it makes sense though too, because if you look at the one mattress in the that's like on this left side of the evidence garage where the red stuff is, I think if it was Ethan, it would be on like the left part, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but what I noticed too is like his head was between the bed and the wall. Yeah. And we're not really seeing that like on the sides.
Yeah, but I would think like the top left, I think that's where, well, look right there on that mattress that was just up there. I think that has the very top left. That's red stuff at the top left. I would think that's where.
No, that's the number 5. I'll post it in the Discord up at the top. Which one? What are you looking at?
That one, right? Like at the very top where the red line is.
Oh, I see.
Looks
okay.
Like it's like, you see it?
Oh, I thought that was a shadow. You might be right. Be right. Where was I going with the other one?
Yeah, the other.
See, it doesn't look like somebody was like very close to the edge of the bed, right?
I know.
That's why I'm like, that's the other reason too why I think it's Maddie's. If it's M's, Kaylee might have been on top of the mattress or somewhat on it. I have made my belief known that I think Kaylee walked into the room and that she was blitz attacked and then pushed on the bed. And I feel even more confident about that, not just after seeing this mattress, but I was making a video and I was going through the documents, and the first document was Nunes. That was the first officer that Dylan spoke to. We see that on the body cam. And that's at 12:09. Now, at that point, Dylan is not aware that Kaylee has passed. She's not aware that Kaylee's a victim. She's not aware of any of that. But her second interview is 2 hours later with Mowry. And at that point, she's aware that Kaylee has passed. And when she's talking to Nunes in that first interview, she says she heard Kaylee scream and say someone's here and run down the stairs. And then with Mowry, she finds out that Kaylee has passed, and she said, like, she concedes, it could have been Xana who was crying in the bathroom. But she still maintains, because this is the document it's in, she still maintains that she was positive it was Kaylee because she recognized her voice. So even after finding out Kaylee had passed, she didn't adjust that part of her story. So that's why I get irritated too when people she keeps changing her story. She doesn't keep changing her story. She gets more information, and her story is naturally going to evolve based on the information. Why do you think he hurt Kaylee or left Kaylee's face unrecognizable? Because I think she walked in. I think that he had that planned I think he had that so well planned, and Kaylee walking in, he didn't plan for it. And the whole point of having it planned and having that kind of control is that helps him stay emotionally regulated. And when someone comes in and throws off the plan, that affects your impulse control, and you can fly into a rage. So That's why I think. Do we think that Kaylee's family knows how Judge is going to rule based on their Facebook post? Rule on what specifically, Amanda? On the certain sealed documents?
Because they're kind of like, hey, et cetera, with their post today. Or was it yesterday? That was today, right? So I wonder if they're like anticipating the judge to be like, this stuff can come out.
Let me see. I'm seeing his car right behind the car. Before, a lot of people are asking, this is like an evidence locker, not a locker, but this is a space for evidence. That's why you see, like, I think it's a motorcycle or a moped, and it's for multiple cases. Seems like Xana's bed wouldn't have all that much red stuff. I mean, you would think, we don't know. You would think that Maddie and Kaylee's mattress would have more, but we just don't know. We don't know I don't think there's like an expected amount of blood that I think it's a case by case basis because there's so many factors. Like we all thought that was, I'm going to repeat something. We all thought it was Ethan, but now that we saw the way he was positioned, it doesn't look like it could be. But who knows? They may have cut samples off to analyze. They did. They did take samples of the mattresses. When Dylan was first questioned, she stated she didn't know what happened. Right. She still didn't know. And I do think, like Amanda said, people are really underestimating what happened, like what happens to your brain during trauma and how you lose your memory, you're all over the place, you can have like a brain fog. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. But she said she still didn't know what happened. She still didn't know. I don't think any of them knew. Well, she didn't know any of them were unalived. But I think at that point we're watching her come to the realization that something really, really bad had happened.
I mean, could you imagine being in her shoes and do that and then...
Wait a minute. Sorry, May. But when Officer got there, she didn't know that Maddie and Kaylee were even upstairs because she was texting them and they weren't responding. They're typically up by like 10 o'clock. And so she thought that was weird. And everything is in like walking distance. She wasn't sure. I think she just kind of had that gnawing feeling. Something's not right. And she didn't know what it was, and she just didn't want to acknowledge it. It was too terrifying. I think Dylan was in state of shock, denial. Trauma really does affect your brain, and it affects your memory. And this is the thing too. People, what they didn't pay attention to in the body cam footage is that officer was asking her the same question in different ways.
Yeah, I noticed that.
She was giving the same answer.
Which is showing that she's consistent. Because if she does something a different way.
Yeah, showing that she's consistent. And especially when, 2 hours goes by, she finds out Kaylee was a victim, and she's retelling the story, and she tells the same story again, and she concedes that it could have been Xana who was crying in the bathroom, but she says she's positive it was Kaylee who said someone's here. She said, because I recognized her voice. So even after finding out Kaylee was a victim, she doesn't waver on that. And I thought that was really interesting.
Really?
Dylan is surprisingly consistent in spite of the trauma she experienced. She is, and that's why when people say she keeps changing her story, I always respond and say, give me some examples and back them up with documents. And I never get a response to nobody's surprise. I never get a response to this question. Because they're just repeating it. They're just repeating what they've heard. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, what about it? And then when you ask for context or when you ask them to expand on it, they really can't. Sometimes they can, but a lot of times they can't.
Every now and then somebody will know a little bit of something, but 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Nope.
Kelsey, I believe they're twin mattresses.
The mattress behind you, I think it looks like I think that's a full. It could be a twin, but it looks a little bigger.
Yeah, Hunter's physical reaction made them respond in a big way. Yeah, because they knew if he's the way he is, something bad happened. Interesting calling them the Idaho 6 because they were victims and they did have their lives taken from them. The lives that they knew they'll never be able to go back to that place. She said she heard screaming and crying, said you can hear everything. So She does say this in the PCA, that she hears the crying, and she does say that she heard a commotion, but she says to the officer during the body cam, she says that after she heard the crying and heard the, it's okay, I'm going to help you, she said she didn't hear anything else. And I keep bringing this up. Ethan was 5 feet away, and he was passed out, like he hadn't been unalived yet. He didn't wake up. He could have been passed out, but he didn't wake up either, that we know of. Katrina, what about Bethany? I heard she told was different. What do you mean? Like, I know she didn't bring up Dylan coming down to her room. Is that what you mean by different? I do think that Bethany heard something, right? I do think she did. You know, the whole thing with it sounded like a firecracker. She heard the cups fall over on the ping pong table. What do you think the firecracker was? I think it was the boom, for the thud. I think she was jolted awake by it because that is loud. Yeah, or it could have been the cups, right, Angie?
That's what I was going to say.
Why do you
maybe like 3 or 4 cups hitting kind of was maybe like that firecracker. Like,
why do you think they think BK went to Kaylee's room first? I think it's because the door's open. I think that's why. I think they think because the door's open. I heard someone say that they believe Kaylee was the target, and when they went to Kaylee's room when he went to Kaylee's room and they didn't see, and I'm using they and when I should be using he, just so that people don't get confused and think I'm talking about plural. And when he didn't see Kaylee, they said that's why he went to Maddie's, like to look for her. And I don't know that he would have known them well enough, known their habits well enough to know that she'd go into her room, actually. Kaylee heard something and ran out to alert someone was here, and she checked on Maddie. That's what I think happens. That's what I think happened. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. Reddit fucking hates me. I don't care. I stand by it, especially now after seeing that mattress, especially the bedroom door being open during the attack, which just seems kind of odd to me because the blood spatter's on the front of the door. I don't know why the door would be open. I would think if you would go into Maddie's room to unalive her, and people are home, like, why would you leave the door open, right? You'd close it, at least, part way. Do you know what I mean? Like, you'd close it, probably not tight because he would want to be able to get out in a way where he didn't have to touch much.